And digital transformation as a process is an amalgamation of 5 different indicators. As you can see, it comprises of technology, data, people, process, and organizational change. And this obviously is a quote from Harvard Business Review, as you can imagine, very well vetted. Then it comes to one thing which I believe I have observed, and something which I definitely would want to share with most of our audience over here. We always call of manners make it a man, but so do culture make it a company. But the third one to remember is that process make it an enterprise. Now the difference between a company and enterprise, a company may be for profit or not for profit. An enterprise is essentially driven by the 2 principles of quality, efficiency, and hopefully, I'm trying to understate the third one, which is profit. So when you want to bring quality and efficiency, profit is a result. I'm sure most of you have already seen the adage, we have people, process, technology as a great trio, and everyone talks about how the 3 interact and help you create a different, meaningful story for every organization, for every enterprise. Well, we have people on the block, we have process, and we have technology. But I like to change that from a trio to a quad by saying, let's try to put in the 4th equation. And that was nicely illustrated by one of our esteemed speakers who said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Well, you do need strategy on the board. If you don't eat strategy, you're going to go hungry. So that's where we will also keep strategy as our 4th pillar. Now, when you look at these 4 elements together, looking at their intersections, their intermingling, what you see is going to happen. So here's the first question for the audience, and in case anybody can guess, we probably can have a round of chocolates delivered. People and process, when they come together, what do you think happens? So we're looking at this quadrant over here. Oh, I think it's not visible on this. When people and process come together, we get culture. And that is the essence of how people work, how do they strive, how do they act. And that's the phenomenon of culture, coming as a result of people following certain processes, certain rituals, certain methodologies, if we call it so. In the same manner, when you look at people and strategy coming together, when strategy is there, you have a plan, you have a goal. So you start looking at planning as an horizon. How do we plan our work? How do we plan our things, be it our day-to-day activities, or be it our 5-year strategy? Then the cross between process and technology. And that should be a fairly easy one. We get systems. So when you try to marry a process and put a technology around it, we get what we call as a system, as a solution, something which helps you with doing that job faster and in the most standard manner. And then finally, if strategy and technology were to amalgamate together, then you come across the concept of performance. How am I performing against what I had planned for, what I had wanted to achieve as an idea? How close are we there? And that's where you start looking at performance monitoring as a measure. These 4 areas of standard, agility, direction, and decisions are the culmination of 3 factors coming together. But what has to happen at the end of this entire 4 quad coming together has to be growth. And that is in essence what we are all here for. If we look at our standard elements that we discussed before, the 5 elements of data, operation, technology, process, and people, and of course we have organizational change over here, we look at how people perceive digital organizations. But what helps you truly become digital are the roots of the tree. That's where the process and the people come together. But of course we all know people are the foundation of making the company digital. But where does that leave processes? Well, the processes are inherently the DNA that help the organization succeed. So there is a strong correlation between the 2. And only when people and process come together can we actually enable that digital culture that we all strive to achieve within our own organizations. When we try to look at digital transformation, and of course we'll come to that in exactly 30 seconds, processes today comprise of challenges where you're trying to go global, but you also want to be local. You want to have processes which are having that element of localization. How we thrive in Oman, how we do things in Oman has to be there. But at the same time, you're also trying to gather the best practices worldwide. You know, the golden standards in processes, how companies in the Fortune 500 run their organizations. So you definitely want to have both the flavors and try to mix and match how they work for you. In a similar manner, your aim is always to get standardization. If the processes are standard, they are less variable, they are more predictable, and so are the outcomes, so are the results, hence the decisions, and hence the key performance, which is profit, cost optimization, and hopefully revenue-driven growth that we're all trying to achieve. When you look at human resource optimization, well, it's the high-level process. Well, there's something underneath. You will look at planning, you look at manpower planning, you look at manpower onboarding. That is the level 2. Indeed, for even manpower onboarding, you need to decide, I need to have recruitment, I need to have agencies, I need to have this, I need to get interviews done, I need to have a system to capture all the people who are sending their CVs to me. So you're breaking down all that big work into smaller groups of work, into level 2, level 3, level 4, or level 5, as may be the case. And that is a very central measure we need to keep in mind when we do process engineering. Incidentally, Naveen and team, of course, NC himself, have been very instrumental in helping Khimji Ramdas with our business mapping exercise. We have been taking that across as a group-wide exercise since last year. And we believe the success of that exercise is something which opens so many doors for you to take up so many interventions, so many changes, as well as open your eyes to something which you have been observing but not really keeping in mind. How strongly do you follow the process? How many times have there been deviation? How many different scenarios emerge in processes? That is something which we always want to monitor. So you need to create process-centric metrics that you need to measure. Documentation, monitoring, and of course, not to forget, continuous improvement that we have to follow in processes. It's part of your DMAIC culture, as most of you may observe. But all in all, processes are not just relegating themselves to their quadrant. You look at other elements, product design, product management, solution design, innovation engineering, emerging technology adoption, cost effectiveness, ROI, benefits. Each of these components, right from data to people to organizational change, all of them have process aspects. So process in that nature becomes the overwhelming, overarching umbrella that is catering to the entire organizational needs across all spectrums. I was just talking about this some time ago when I was trying to explain what these 4 components are. And in the digital technology world, you look at these as the way to jump through the hoops and become a digitally transformed enterprise. So we all start with digitization, which I told you is about converting it from manual to digital. So converting ABCD to 1 and 0. I'm just trying to elaborate on that so you remember it. It's ABCD becoming 1 and 0. That's the technology world. Then we go to digitalizing, saying, okay, it has to go from that phone over there to that computer over there. How do we move that data? It has to go through a pipeline, it has to go through a wire, it has to go wirelessly. That is where you bring digitalization. That's the digital nature of a business. When you try to learn that I can do that from here to there, not by putting it on a USB, carrying it over there, and sticking and copying it over, which probably would take 10 minutes, and I can do it wirelessly on WhatsApp, that's a transformation. So you have now turned a 10-minute job into a 1-second job. That is transformation. That is where you try to look at change. The culmination of all of this is a digital enterprise where, like your body, you have constant control of what you're seeing, what you're observing, what you're touching, what you're feeling, and you are able to react accordingly much, much ahead in a very, very planned manner. So that process engineering, process standardization, and process automation all together will give you the biggest jump in the way your organization works, in the way it operates, and in the way it is geared for the future.